So about 2.5 years ago, I was driving by Reed College, and I was listening to an audiobook called Think and Grow Rich. And at that time, a thought flashed into my head. I had this thought that, from somewhere, I never had this thought before, but I had this thought that I could host a radio show. And that I could that I could play different clips from the best audiobooks that I found, and that I could kind of play the different clips in 1 hour of audio and connect those together. And so that was the first thought that kind of started it all. I didn't think about that thought for a few years after that, but that one thought was something that has turned into reality. So today I'm going to kind of tell you my story about how, I'm going to tell you 3 stories about decisions that led up to me having my own radio show. In hopes, though, I also hope to give you something, and I hope to give you some benefits of these 3 decisions that I made and help show you how powerful decisions are and how decisions can change your life. So Napoleon Bonaparte once said that nothing is more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide. So I'm going to tell you 3 stories about how I made a decision in hopes that you can better make decisions as well. My first story is going to be about debate. My second story is going to be about Portland. And my third is going to be about radio. So first, before this thought ever even came into my mind, I was a senior at Cleveland High School, or a junior at Cleveland High School, here in Portland, Oregon. And I was walking through the hall. I'm walking down Junior Hall. I remember it just really clearly. And I bent down to get a drink of water at the water fountain. And as I look up, I see this big, bright orange sign on the wall. And it said, Speech and Debate, room 103, after school. And at that moment, I made a decision. At that moment, I knew that I was going to go and do speech and debate. And so after school that day, I found the door to the room and started kind of pacing by the door, just trying to build up the courage to walk into that room and join speech and debate. And but the decision had already been made, and so it was kind of a succession of decisions. But eventually, I walked in there and I met my coach Gonzo, and since that day, I've been now doing speech and debate for five or so years. So that had a big impact on me. And that one decision, if I wouldn't have made that decision, I wouldn't have been able to make the next 2 decisions that happened down the road. So my second decision then, I was a student at the University of Oregon, and I was studying there for a couple of years. And about a year and a half through, I started thinking that I really wanted to study something that I was passionate about. And I was really passionate about communication. And the University of Oregon didn't exactly have the type of communication degree I wanted. But I really liked the University of Oregon. I had a lot of friends there, and I enjoyed the school. So I was torn between these 2 decisions, and I kept going back and forth. Which, should I go to stay at U of O, or should I move to Portland State? Should I stay at U of O? Should I go to Portland State? Which actually I've learned now at Portland State that's something you shouldn't do in decision making. You should try and open it up and have a broad decision, an open-ended question. But I didn't know that back then, so I was going back and forth. And actually at one of my mastermind meetings, we were reading that book, again, Think and Grow Rich. And one of the chapters is a chapter on decision. And so I made up my mind that by the end of that decision chapter, I was going to make a decision. And I was either going to go to Portland or I was going to stay in Eugene. And so it's maybe 5 or 7 minutes of reading the chapter. And after 5 or 7 minutes, I made my decision. And of course, since I'm here, I decided to come to Portland. And, that was kind of the apex of this whole process. And that decision led to numerous other great things happening, because it turned out that Portland State has a great radio program called KPSU. And so if that decision wouldn't have been made, I would have never been able to participate in radio. So then my third decision comes just a few months ago, let's say. I was trying to decide exactly what I wanted to do with my life, at least for the next few years, or for the next time. For the next few years or so. And so I was thinking about radio and a whole bunch of other things. And eventually, I just made the decision. I decided that, I heard someone say something that if you narrow your focus, then you broaden your opportunity. If you're trying to go to all these different things at once, then the jack of all trades, I've heard, is a master at none. And so I really wanted to focus on one thing. So I decided to focus on radio. And that decision has now led me to something that I really enjoy doing. And so I now just launched my website, and I can give you guys a little bit of information after this at the end. But so I now have radio online, and I do what is called synthesis. So I try to connect little clips from audiobooks and mix them all together, and then talk in between them, and create something new out of those clips. And so I want to leave you with a quote and a little bit of analysis about this quote, or actually rather a little bit of synthesis about this quote, which was from Martin Luther King Jr. He said that faith is taking the first step when you don't see the whole staircase. And I think that that is what most decisions are. Because in life, we never know what the whole staircase is going to be. We never know how those decisions are going to turn out. But decision making is taking those first few steps when you can't see the whole staircase. And in a book called The Charisma Myth, the author Olivia Fox Cabane says that decision making is even much more prized when there are times of uncertainty. So when things are uncertain, being bold and confident and decisive is even more prized. So I urge you in times of certainty or in times of uncertainty to make some decisions, and even when you can't see the whole staircase, to take the first few